Vine sat at the corner table in the cafe, tapping her fingers nervously on the wooden surface. The sunlight streaming through the window cast warm patterns across the table, but it did nothing to calm the rapid beating of her heart. She glanced at the door for the 10th time, waiting for Jungkook to walk in. This was the moment she has been longing for, the chance to mend everything between them, to break down the walls he had built around his heart. While whispering to herself, smiling nervously, Jungkook, I know we both made mistakes, but I want us to find our way back. No, that's too serious. Jungkook, please let's go to the back the way we were, as I can't stay away from you. She giggled to herself, rolling her eyes at her own corny lines, but her happiness was genuine, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation. She was over the moon, but somewhere deep inside, a nagging feeling still gnawed at her. She quickly shrugged it off, dismissing it as just nerves. Suddenly she felt a hand on her shoulder. Her heart leaped, a broad smile spreading across her face as she spun around, expecting to see Jungkook standing there, his dark eyes full of familiar intensity. But the smile fell away the moment she met the eyes of the person behind her. Vian, surprised, voice flattering, You, what are you doing here? Standing before her was someone she hadn't expected to see, someone whose presence made her blood run cold. The smile she had for Jungkook disappeared in an instant, replaced with confusion and a trace of fear. Meanwhile, Jungkook was just a block away, making his way to the cafe with a rare smile on his face. He had spotted a flower shop on his way and couldn't resist buying a bouquet of Vian's favorite flowers. As he walked, he thought about what he would say to her, the words rolling over in his mind, each one filled with hope and longing. Jungkook, thinking to himself, I need her to know that no matter how much I tried to push her away, it was only because I couldn't stand the thought of losing her again. He pushed open the door to the cafe, the small bell above jingling lightly. He stepped inside, but before he could take another step, he stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes found Ryan immediately, but the sight in front of him made his blood boil. There she was, standing face to face with another man. His posture was imposing, and his hand was still on her shoulder. Ryan's expression was one of shock. Her body tensed. Jungkook's jaw clenched as he felt a wave of anger surge through him. The bouquet in his hands crumbled under the force of his tightening fist, the delicate petal crushed and the sharp thorn sticking into his skin, drawing blood, but he didn't care. Jungkook whispering under his breath, voice laced with fury. What the hell? His eyes darkened, narrowing as he took in the scene. Each second that passed felt like a stab to his chest. The flowers were now a ruined mess in his hand, crimson drops of blood staining the once white petals, but the pain in his palm was nothing compared to the storm that was brewing inside him. Van's eyes started past the man in front of her, locking with Jungkook's across the room. She saw the bouquet in his hand, now broken and stained red, and her breath caught in her throat. The look in his eyes was a mixture of betrayal, anger, and something even deeper, something that made her heart drop. Van muttering, voice trembling, Jungkook. Jungkook's stare hardened, his eyes full of silent accusations. Without a word, he turned on his heel and walked out of the cafe, leaving Vian standing there with her heart shattering into pieces. The man in front of her said something, but she didn't hear it. All she could think about was the look in Jungkook's eye, the look that told her she might have just lost him all over again. As the cafe door swung shut, the sound fell final, like the slam of a door she desperately wanted to keep open. Jungkook stormed out of the cafe, his mind a chaotic mess of anger and confusion. His blooded hand dropped, but the pain was dulled by the rage coursing through his veins. The memory of Vi's shocked face haunted him, but the image of her standing so close to another man burned him even more. He didn't want to think, didn't want to feel. All he wanted was to make the searing anger inside him go away. He reached his house, slammed the door open, and began throwing anything within reach. Vases shattered, books tumbled from the shelves, and the sound of glass cracking filled the air. The chaos in the living room mirrored the storm inside him. He paced back and forth, fist clenched, breath rage, his vision blurred by fury. He replayed the scene in the cafe over and over in his head until he heard a soft knock at the door. Before he could shout at whoever it was, the door creaked open and Ryan stood there, eyes wide with worry and tears. Vine, voice trembling. Jungkook, please let me explain. It's not what you think. Jungkook turned to her, his eyes sharp and cold. He took a step forward, making Vine's heart pound even faster. Jungkook, voice breaking, filled with raw emotion, explained, I gave you a chance to make things right, Vine. I was ready to leave behind my pride and self-respect, all of it, just to be with you. And what did you do? You shattered it again. A lone tear escaped his eyes, and he quickly wiped it away. Refusing to show any more weakness, Vine stepped closer, hands trembling, as she reached out to touch him, but he stepped back, his expression unreadable. Vine desperately, Jungkook, please listen. It was never what it seemed. I don't want anyone but you. Just as Jungkook was about to respond, Jimin entered the house, a determined look on his face. He glanced at the mess and then at Vine before speaking. Jimin, Jungkook, you need to hear this. I did some digging as I was suspicious about the whole thing, and I know who's behind all this. He replies in a serious voice. Jungkook's brow furrowed in confusion as Jimin handed him a folder. Inside were the evidence that made Jungkook's blood boil even more. Jungkook, jaw clenching. Anna and Taeyong. Jimin nodded and explains them everything. Jimin, Anna planned this misunderstanding because she wanted you for herself. And Taeyong, he wanted Ryan and was bitter about after you got him expelled. He wanted revenge and he knew getting close to Ryan was the best way to hurt both of you. Jungkook stood there, stunned by the revelation of Taeyong and Anna's betrayal. His eyes darkened, and a cold smile crept on his lips as he processed the truth. The hurt he had felt was quickly replaced by rage. Jungkook, so they thought they could play games with me, he muttered to himself, his voice low and menacing. Now they'll see what happens when you mess with John Jungkook. I never forget. And I never forget. With a determined glint in his eyes, he made up his mind. This time they would pay for every bit of pain they caused. Jungkook's mind was set. He knew he needed to bring both Anna and Taeyong face to face and expose their betrayal once and for all. With Jimin's help, he devised a plan that would make Anna and Taeyong think they were meeting each other in secret, when in reality it was all planned by Jungkook. The stage was set and Jungkook waited, hidden nearby with Jimin by his side for support. Anna arrived first, her face tense as she scanned the area. A few moments later, Taeyong walked in, looking suspicious and slightly annoyed. Taeyong, frowning, why did you call me here, Anna? We agreed not to be seen together. Anna, confused, I didn't call you. I got a message saying you wanted to talk. Before either of them could process what was happening, Jungkook stepped out from the shadows, his eyes dark and piercing. The moment they saw him, Anna's face paled and Taeyong's jaw clenched. Jungkook, voice cold, with a hint of satisfaction. Surprised to see me? I thought it was time we had a little meeting. Anna stampering, trying to maintain the composure. Jungkook, this is not what you think. Jungkook raised a hand, silencing her. Jungkook, enough Anna, I have proof for everything. Your messages, your plan, even the news that you spread of Ryan and Taeyong, all of it. Lies, the plotting, and the games you played to ruin what I had with Ryan. Taeyong's eyes flashed with anger as he took a step forward. Taeyong, with bitter laugh. So you finally figured it out, didn't you? Yes, I wanted Ryan, and yes, I wanted revenge for you getting mixed with. You had everything, Jungkook, everything I wanted. Why should you get to keep it all? Anna looked between them, her hands trembling. Realizing there was no escape, she finally cracked, her voice rising in desperation. Anna screaming, Why can't you just love me, Jungkook? I've loved you before her. I could be her. I could be everything you want if you just give me a chance. Jungkook's eyes burned with fury as he stepped closer to her. Jungkook, for me, no one could ever be Ryan. What we have, is irrepressible. And you, both of you, crossed the line. I don't care if you're a woman. You tried to tear apart my life, and I won't forgive that. No one can separate Ryan from John Jungkook, and those who tried had to face consequences. Now it's your turn. Jungkook replies with while having a sinister smirk on his face. Seeing Jungkook like this, a wave of fear washed over them. Jungkook calls out Jimin, who was hiding in the shadows. Jungkook, take care of them. Hearing Jungkook, Anna and Taeyang's face turned pale as Jungkook stepped out of the building. The distant chilling screams echoed through the halls behind him. The sound sent a cold shiver down anyone's spine, but he remained unfazed. His expression was cold and emotionless, his eyes dark with satisfaction. Each scream was a reminder to never cross John Jacob. Without sparing a second glance back, he walked away, his presence leaving a lingering sense of fear in the air. Jungkook reached Ryan's house, his heart racing with anticipation. Without wasting a moment, he walked up to her and pulled her close by the waist, their bodies almost touching. His voice was soft, almost pleading, as he whispered, Jungkook, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Ryan, though flustered by the sudden closeness, tried to keep a stunned expression. She crossed her arms and looked away, pretending to be upset. Ryan, oh really? You think just saying sorry will work? I won't forgive you that easily. Jungkook, you have to earn it, she replied, raising an eyebrow. You made me chase after you. Now it's your turn. A mischievous grin spread across Jungkook's face. He leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear. Jungkook, oh yeah? I must admit, I was enjoying it when you were flirting with me. You have no idea what those pickup lines did to me. He teased, his nose brushing against hers. Vine tried to maintain her composure, but with him so close, she couldn't resist herself any longer. Her cold face melted away as she leaned in and captured his lips in a kiss. Jungkook smirked against her lips and deepened the kiss, savoring the moment he had been craving for so long. As they pulled away, Jungkook couldn't help but tease her. Jungkook, someone just told me they wouldn't forgive me easily, he said with a playful smirk, his eyes twinkling, but they couldn't even control themselves. Van's cheek turned a bright shade of pink at his teasing. Rolling her eyes, she huffed and pushed him away. Turning on her heel, she walked off. Jungkook watched her with a smile, then quickly followed after her. Jungkook, where are you going, sweetheart? He called out with a playful tone. Wait for me. The end.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.